Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. And I'm just going to do a quick follow up on the video that I just did black women kick black men out of the house? First of all, Daniel Patrick Moynihan was never an expert on black people. His study was flawed, and it was done 60 years ago. That study was done 60 years ago. He drew from a study that was done 3 years before his, and that person drew from a study that was done in 1935. So we're looking at a white man doing a study on black people in 1965, which is when it was published, and his data went all the way back to the 1930s. And people are still trying to use that as a basis for what is wrong in the black community without taking any responsibility for what they're doing. All I can say is black people have to move on from this. Black Americans have to move on from the Moynihan study because it was done 60 years ago. And if people are still not willing to take responsibility for their own lives, then that is on them. Black people need to be listening to black men who are actually going somewhere, who are leading, who are educated, who have some level of expertise in something besides complaining. We need real leaders in our community, and they are coming up. These young black men now, because a lot of these men that are talking about this are old. These old men, and you know what Jason Black says about old men. You have to watch these old black people because they are steeped in failure and excusism and absenteeism. They haven't shown up for their own lives, and they're trying to absolve themselves of any responsibility for their own lives. So they fall back on this that says something about single households. They don't even, a lot of black women lead households for reasons that don't have anything to do with kicking a man out. Men die, men get sick, men go to jail, and men decide to walk off because they don't want to do it anymore. So women are heads of households all the time. And I see it all the time. I taught school for many years. And I see children now who came from single family homes, from the projects, who are homeowners, who are coming to church with their children, going to school board meetings. Black people are moving on from this. These men are losers, and they need to let black people grow. And they don't want to accept the fact that there was no man in their house to start with. You have to start with that. There never was a man in your house. And as somebody pointed out in the comment section, nobody could kick you out of your own house. If you had your own house and you were paying the mortgage like you should have been doing, nobody would have been able to kick you out. Black people, men and women, have been traumatized since we hit the shores of the United States of America with these white people. We went through a tragedy and trauma after trauma after trauma. We all need some therapy. We can all use some therapy because it wasn't just one thing that has landed us in the position that we're in. But many of us have decided that we're going to move on with our lives. We're going to get on with it. We're not going to be failures. And to make a vocation out of blaming other people is the recipe for failure. You are a loser if you spend your life blaming your problems on somebody else. You have not taken responsibility. You're probably in trauma and you need help. And you need to get that help so you can get on with your own life. Now back to Daniel Patrick Moynihan. This man was a bureaucrat. He was working for the United States government. He was part of the propaganda machine. The propaganda that says, let's put the failures of black people out front so we can hide the failures of white people. And that has been done and is still being done to this day. As much as we have gone through the trauma, the tragedy, and all the stuff that went with it, we're still not the poorest people in the United States of America, but they continue to float that lie. These Africans and these black immigrants think that we are very poor, and we are not. We are not the poorest people in this country. 82 or 83% of black Americans live above the poverty line by American standards. We don't commit the most crime. If you just take the time to Google it and say who commits the most crimes in the United States of America, it's going to tell you that it's white people. It is not black people. And even though they put all of this black people against Asians out there, so the Asians got a crime bill, even the FBI will say that the most crimes that are perpetuated against Asians are done by white people. So they continue to hide their failures behind us. And then you got weak black men who want to hide behind black women. It is weak and it is wrong. And people talk about these multiple families that black men have in the same community. In the last school that I taught, as a matter of fact, one black man had 11 children in that school. I don't even know how many different mamas it was. But this is degenerate behavior. He was never in any of those women's homes. He was just having drive-by relationships. Now he'll have some children that'll grow up and say something about my dad was never in the home because my mama did this and my mama did that when he was never there in the first place. He was never in your home. So these are things that black people are going to have to come to terms with. And it's really not about beating up on black men because I had a great daddy. My dad was with his family till the day he died. On any given day, wherever I was in the world, I could pretty much tell you where my daddy was and to some extent what he was doing. And not only was my dad with us, his daddy stayed with them. My granddaddy lived on the next street from us, and my family was not unusual. So all black men didn't leave their homes. So y'all need to grow up. You have to stop this. And Daniel Patrick Moynihan was nothing but another bureaucrat that was trying to make it seem like black people are responsible for all their problems so they wouldn't have to be accountable for the tragedy that was perpetrated against black people. You don't have to be a genius to figure this out. This man was a bureaucrat and he was an apologist for the United States of America. As I have said before, if he was an honest broker and wanted to tell the truth, he would have begun with his hometown of Tulsa. You think that a massacre like the Tulsa massacre, you think that would have something to do with black people being traumatized, with black men being afraid for their families and not wanting to settle down with the family? You think that might have been one of the reasons? It might have been. There are a number of reasons why the black family has undergone the problems that it has. And even with that, we are not the worst. In the 1970s, black people were more married than white people. There are more poor white people in the United States than black people. White people are the leading criminals in the United States, according to the FBI. They don't talk about their problems. They focus on black problems. And then we try to turn on each other. That really is cowardly. It's cowardly. I think most black women have moved on from this anyway. I just decided to come back and do this video because of the responses that I got yesterday. And I really believe that a lot of people responded to it without even watching the video because they have a made up mind. But at the end of the day, this is 2025, and the Moynihan report was done 60 years ago. If you are above 60 years old, you probably don't even know anything about it and definitely not taking it seriously. So the only people that are trying to take that report seriously are people who have not achieved anything in their lives and they need somebody to blame it on. So they're blaming it on black women because the reality is if they would take a really hard look, because the reality is if they would take a look in their real family background, they would probably find that there was never a daddy in the home in the first place. And the daddy had a multitude of reasons for leaving the home if he left. And all of it didn't have to do with the black woman. Some of it has to do with not being able to provide for your family and just having a weakness of your own, just being weak. Because again, a lot of black men weather the storm of racism, of redlining, of discrimination, of job discrimination, social discrimination. They weathered it and they stayed with their families and raised their children. Now, nobody who wants to blame it all on black women is going to listen to that. No matter how much you talk and no matter how many statistics you bring out, they are dug in. A lot of these men don't like women. They really don't like women. And so we really have to kind of factor that in as we go forward with this, as we go forward, leaving this particular discussion behind. Because you're really dealing with somebody who's stuck in, because you're dealing with people who are stuck in a 60 years ago mindset, and there's nothing you can do about that. But this Patrick Moynihan has done a lot of damage to these men because it's given them an excuse for being losers and underachievers. All right, so I'm going to leave it alone and move on to something else. But thank you for listening anyway. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and have a good day.